She was a child of the dusty market, invisible to most and surviving on scraps, until a fateful encounter with a wealthy girl and the secrets of a mysterious tree pulled her into a world of power, envy, and danger. In a village where truths are hidden and every choice can change lives, she must find courage, outsmart those who seek to harm her, and discover the strength she never knew she had. The sun rose slowly over Onitsha main market, throwing its golden light on the restless crowd of traders, the creaking of wheelbarrows, and the cries of women calling out their wares. In the midst of that noise and endless movement sat a little girl named Amara. Her hair was rough, her dress torn at the seams, and her bare feet were covered with the dust of the market ground. But what made her stand out was not her clothes nor her hunger. It was a shadow of her mother's madness. Beside her sat Neka, a woman whose eyes never seemed to rest in one place, who muttered and laughed and cursed at spirits that no one else could see. To the traders, she was the mad woman, and to them, Amara was nothing more than the daughter of the mad one. It was not uncommon to hear the hiss of market women as Amara passed, or the cruel laughter of children who pointed at her mother. Men shook their heads, pity mixed with disgust, but no one ever stopped long enough to see the pain in Amara's eyes. Yet what hurt her most was not the insults. What hurt was a memory of a life that had almost been different, a life that had slipped through her hands like water. She remembered the classroom where she once sat, the sharp smell of chalk dust, the thrill of writing her name for the first time, the joy of reading aloud before the other pupils. For 2 short years, a sponsor had taken her in and promised her education. For 2 years, she lived with books and pencils and dreams. Then one day the woman disappeared without explanation, and Amara was cast back into the streets, clinging to her unstable mother, watching her future close like a door slammed in her face. Since then, the market had become her world. She fetched water for traders, carried baskets, begged when there was no work, and went to bed hungry more nights than she could count. Her mother would rock back and forth on the pavement, humming an old lullaby that no longer had meaning. Amara sat beside her, her eyes not on the traders, but on the school she passed every morning, the ones that rang bells and welcomed children with neat uniforms and heavy backpacks. That world was hers once, and her heart ached for it still. There was one person, however, who saw Amara differently. Mama Olivia, the akara seller by the market gate, often watched her with quiet eyes. Every morning as she fried beans, cake, and hot oil, she would slip 1 or 2 into Amara's hand, when no one was looking. You get sharp eyes. Your brain day hot. No, let this market kill your fire. Those words clung to Amara's heart like a secret treasure, a reminder that someone believed in her. Then one day, Mama Olivia called her aside and asked, "Amara, you still want to go to school?" The little girl's heart pounded in her chest. She nodded quickly, her voice trembling with excitement. Mama Olivia sighed deeply, as though weighing a heavy burden, then said, "I will talk to the headmaster for that public school near here. I no get plenty, but I go help you small. And for a time, Amara's world changed. With an old uniform patch beyond recognition, she walked proudly into the dusty classroom of Unity Primary School. Though she sat at the back, her hand was always the first to shoot up when the teacher asked a question. She had no textbooks, no lunchbox, and sometimes no shoes, but her mind was a fire that refused to dim. Other children mocked her torn clothes. But when it came to sums or spellings, it was Amara's voice that carried the answer. Teachers began to notice the way she grasped lessons quickly, as though her hunger for learning was greater than her hunger for food. And for the first time in years, Amara dared to dream again. But joy for her never lasted. One morning, Mama Olivia called her over with sorrow written across her face. "Amara, I dey go village. My mama's sick, and I no know when I go come back." She pressed a few crumpled naira notes into Amara's small hand and said softly, "Take this. Use and manage." The girl wanted to cry, to plead with her not to leave, but the words stuck in her throat. Days later, when the school demanded exam fees, Amara had nothing. When the teacher told her not to return until she brought the money, she stood outside the classroom window, listening to her classmates recite their multiplication tables. Tears streamed down her cheeks as she turned away. That day, she walked back into market dust, her mother's hand clutched in hers, her dreams once again shattered. The cruelty of the market grew heavier. Traders mocked her openly. "Book no go feed you." One man barked as she lingered near his stall. "She think say she go be doctor?" Another sneered. "Now market day your front." Their laughter pierced her. But Amara carried something they could not see, a hunger that went beyond the body. She was starving, yes, but more than food, she longed for knowledge. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the chalkboard, the letters dancing before her, the numbers waiting to be solved. Mama Olivia's words echoed in her ears. Your brain day hot. And she believed it, even if no one else did. One evening, after another day of rejection, Amara sat by the banks of a river. The moonlight spread across the water, silver and calm, while fishermen paddled their canoes in the distance. Her mother lay nearby, already asleep, mumbling to herself. Amara hugged her knees and lifted her tear-streaked face to the heavens. "God," she whispered, her voice breaking, "why you give me this brain if I no fit use am? Why you let me taste school small only to throw me back here? Do you see me at all?" The tears came hot and fast, pouring out of a heart too young for such pain. She wept until her chest ached, until her voice was gone. Then, in the silence that followed, something stirred inside her, a stubborn, quiet resolve. Wiping her face, she whispered again, softer this time, "I no go give up. Even if dem push me away, I go still learn." The stars above seemed to glimmer brighter, as if listening. The night breeze carried her words into the darkness. Amara did not know how it would happen, or when, but she knew one thing for certain. She would find a way to feed her mind. Even if no classroom door opened to her, even if every teacher pushed her aside, she would chase knowledge in the shadows. She would not let the market dust bury her light. And so, under that moonlit sky, the daughter of the mad woman, barefoot and mocked, planted the seed of her destiny. She did not yet know the journey ahead, or the strange path that would lead her beneath the udara tree of Royal Crest Academy. But in that moment, she chose not to surrender. Her story had only just begun. Amara's hunger was no longer just for food. It was for letters, for numbers, for the sweet ache of knowledge. Every time she passed a school on her way through the busy streets of Onitsha, her heart pulled her closer. She could not stop staring at the gates, at the children in crisp uniforms laughing as they ran into their classrooms, at the teachers holding books in their hands as though they carried magic. She wanted to be inside those gates, to sit at a desk again, to feel that world wash over her. But she had no uniform, no money, no one to speak for her. All she had was longing, and longing, when it is strong enough, can make a child daring. One morning, as the market swelled with noise, Amara followed a group of children headed to school. She kept her distance at first, watching them chatter and swing their bags as though life was nothing but joy. Then, when they entered the compound, she lingered outside the rusted gate. Through the bars, she could see a classroom with wide windows. Her heart pounded as she crept closer, then pressed herself against the wall, peeping in. There were rows of children repeating the teacher's words. She whispered them to herself, matching their voices. For a brief moment she felt part of the lesson, and her chest swelled with happiness. But the illusion did not last. A boy spotted her face at the window and shouted, "Look, the madwoman's daughter." The whole class turned. Some laughed, others jeered. The teacher frowned and walked to the window. "What are you doing here?" "Go away," he snapped. Amara ran, her face burning, her eyes hot with tears. Yet the shame did not stop her. The next day and the next, she tried again at different schools. Sometimes she hid by the fence, repeating alphabets as teachers drilled their pupils. Sometimes she crouched by the playground, watching children write letters in sand. More than once she was chased away with sticks or stones. "Dirty market rat," a guard shouted, throwing gravel at her as she fled. Children mocked her, adults hissed at her, but still she returned. The humiliation was heavy, but her hunger was heavier. Life in the market did not make things easier. She now hawked roasted groundnuts for a woman who paid her little more than scraps. She carried the small tray on her head, calling out to passers-by in the hot sun. Many ignored her. Some bought and insulted her at the same time. Other street boys sometimes snatched her groundnuts and ran, leaving her with nothing to give her mother that night. Each time it happened, her stomach twisted with anger, but she swallowed it and started again. At night, she returned to her mother, who rocked back and forth, whispering songs that never made sense. Amara would place what little she had before her, and they would eat in silence. One night, unable to sleep, Amara slipped away to the banks of the river. The water glistened in the moonlight, and the night air was cool against her skin. She sat there with her knees pulled to her chest, staring at the river as if it carried answers. Her voice trembled as she spoke into the night. God, why? Why give me this mind if I cannot use it? Why show me the classroom only to throw me back to this dust? Her tears rolled freely, mixing with the soil beneath her. She sobbed until her body shook, until there was nothing left inside her but emptiness. And yet, when the sobbing ended, a strange strength filled her chest. She did not know where it came from, but she knew she could not stop fighting. She whispered through clenched teeth, I will learn. Even if the whole world chases me away, I will learn. Days turned into weeks, and her daring grew bolder. She began to sneak deeper into schools, slipping through broken fences, hiding behind bushes, waiting until lessons started so she could catch pieces of them. Sometimes she crouched near windows, her lips moving with the pupils. Other times she lay flat under trees, listening to teachers' read stories she could only imagine on paper. Every insult, every stone thrown at her only made her return the next day. It was during one of these wanderings that she discovered it. She had followed a group of children farther than she ever had before, past the crowded stalls of the main market, past the smaller schools that dotted the busy streets, until she stood before a tall iron gate with shining gold letters, Royal Crest Academy. The walls stretched high, painted white, and from inside came the sound of laughter, of children who had never known hunger. Amara's mouth fell open as she gazed at the palace-like compound. Through a small broken corner of the fence, she could see wide lawns, tall buildings, and children in neatly pressed uniforms with shoes that shone like mirrors. She pressed her face to the gap and held her breath. There, by the edge of the compound, grew a huge udara tree. Its branches spread wide, its leaves thick, its shade inviting. Beneath it, children sometimes played during breaks, tossing snacks at one another. But when the bell rang and they scattered back into their classrooms, the tree stood alone, silent and tall. Amara felt something stir in her chest. That tree was not just a tree. To her, it was a hiding place, a secret corner where no one might notice her. She waited until the ground were quiet, then squeezed herself through the gap in the fence. Her heart raced with fear that someone might see her, but no one did. She ran to the udara tree and crouched in its shade. From there, she could see into the nearest classroom. She could hear the teacher's voice carried by the wind. She could watch the pupils writing on their desks. That day, under the udara tree, Amara found her sanctuary. It became her secret school, her hidden classroom. She returned the next day and the next, always slipping through the gap, always curling up on the branches, listening with every nerve alive. Sometimes she copied the pupils by writing letters in the sand with her finger. Sometimes she whispered answers before the children inside could raise their hands. She was invisible, but she was learning. She was poor, but her mind was feasting. Still, she knew this was dangerous. If anyone found her, they would drive her out. The rich children mocked her kind in the market already. What would they do if they discovered her sitting under their school tree? But Amara could not stop. The udara tree was the only place where her hunger was fed. Under that udara tree, Amara's fate quietly began to unfold. The world only saw a poor girl, the daughter of a mad woman. But God had written something greater for her. Anticipate Part 2, where rejection becomes a seed of destiny. Don't miss what happens next in Amara's journey. Subscribe to our channel, like this video, and turn on the notification bell so you'll be the first to see Part 2.